as a person who was formerly on the left, ironically, the vast majority of my positions haven't changed. The party has become so exceptionally radical, leaning into the things you're talking about: sex changes for kids, biological males and women's sports. I think socialism is up 36% for the Democrat Party. I mean, these are the things I like, what is happening? I really thought it would be that wake-up call and they would kind of come back to a more moderate stance. But instead, it's pushed them more into the kind of squad, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Mamdani, radical 20% of the issue. And now I can't even believe we're talking about this. I was shocked. This came up yesterday. So USA Powerlifting, apparently a Minnesota Supreme Court just ruled that they discriminated against a transgender athlete by not letting her compete in the women's division. So take a look at this clip. This is a gender justice director who is arguing for this apparently at the Supreme Court. And here's what I think forgive me, I actually don't know how this person identifies, has to say.
The court found USA Powerlifting liable for discrimination. In other words, that when it comes to discrimination, public accommodation, you cannot bar transgender women from women's sports teams. And that is a huge victory. We are so proud.
Okay. Power lifting.
Yeah.
Power lift. So when you're at the gym and somebody leg presses 700 pounds and you're leg pressing 100 pounds, that's testosterone. There's no amount of training. When she says it is a huge victory, I'm going to hand it to you here. I'm confounded.
Yeah, of course, I mean, this issue is ultimately how I have found myself in the position and with the platform that I now have. I have pondered on, obviously, my own experience, these issues that we continue to see around the country, affecting all levels, by the way, like elementary school, middle school, high school, college, the amateur level, even the Olympic level. Like this, no one is immune to this issue. I've thought about the communication and the messaging of all of this. And when I listen to someone like that, I presume it's a woman who was just
Jess.
speaking. I mean,
the name is Jess. I took that away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we get it wrong. Maybe. I don't know how the
person.
And
then we're like committing a hate crime.
Well, we've both been accused of that together, in fact.
Exactly.
So, same time.
I listened to this and I listened to this woman describe the exclusion. They use the word inclusion. Let's call it what it is. I listened to her describe the exclusion of women from women's sports as a huge and total victory. Who is winning here, right? They have dubbed this movement, right, the trans rights movement. Let's call it what it is in virtually every scenario. It is the men's rights movement. Because, again, I'm just using very plain language. I'm not saying what I'm saying to be hurtful or to be mean or to be disrespectful. I'm calling it as exactly how it is. We have seen men infiltrate into women's sports, infiltrate into women's prisons, infiltrate into women's domestic violence shelters. The list goes on, right? I don't have to keep going. Bathrooms, locker rooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. What they are doing, they are violating women's rights, number one, to equal opportunity. Two, to safety. I think especially as it pertains, I mean, all of these scenarios, any intimate, vulnerable single-sex space such as a bathroom or a prison for that matter, these men are violating women's safety. They're violating their privacy, especially, again, in areas of undressing. It's the men's rights movement is what this is. And so to see this woman, which, ironic, is seemingly always liberal white women who are applauding the erasure of women, all while calling themselves a feminist. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how they could see this as a total victory as this woman did.
Well, here's where this gets a little more crazy, actually. So, listen to this. Okay. USA Powerlifting argued that allowing transgender women to compete in the women's division would put other women. So, I think, by the way, historically, throughout history, people who were transgender had that transgender. It implies there is a difference. You would like me to address you as Sheila and your name was Sean. No problem. I actually don't care. I'm done. Consider it to live however you want to live. Do whatever you want with your body as an adult that can make informed decisions. But you cannot deny it's not other women. There's biological women and then there's trans women, and they are different. It is okay to acknowledge it. It is not a hate crime to acknowledge science. Now, they still said that, right? Trying to be accommodating. They go on to say, our goal at USAPL is to create rules and a framework that uphold the principles of fair play and not to exclude anyone. And in response to that, in an attempt to create a sport that doesn't exclude anyone, they created an open MX division, a mixed gender division in 2021 to serve all gender identities, including transgender and non-binary members. But that was not enough. The court said that the sports organization violated the Human Rights Act by, quote, making a person pretend to be someone different. So what about making all the female athletes pretend that there is no difference? You have no concern there? None? Zero. Long story short, see if you can make sense out of this one. Okay, so the court basically kicked it back down to a lower court, and they said that if they can come up with a legitimate business purpose defense, then maybe they could still win this case. And I could not for the life of me understand. So essentially, it's a loophole that says if you show fairness is your business model, you might win. You have to show fairness is not a safety issue. Like, you have to show it's a business model? Riley, what the hell is this? What is this and where is this going?
Well, it's so interesting because the beauty of sport is that it lies. Fairness is the foundation. That's the beauty of sport, right? And I think it's important to mention that sports in general are inclusive by their true nature, right? Like, no one is excluded from playing sports. Anyone can play, regardless of religion, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of any identity factor, gay, straight, doesn't matter. You can play sports. There's a place for you to play sports. Unless I'm totally ill-informed, there's some total discriminatory law or rule out there that prevents people from playing sports, which there's not. Okay, so sports in their true nature are inclusive. What is exclusive, though, is competition. Like, right. In the word's definition, it's exclusive because you have a winner in competition. Not everyone is guaranteed to win. That's the beauty of sport. It lies in a foundation of fairness. Okay, so to say that their business model has to be fairness, it is like that right. Is what sports are about. Whatever. Besides, that's why we have like in boxing or any event where you're getting into a ring and fighting and there's weight classes. That's why we have the weight classes, because fairness matters. You don't have someone who's 280 pounds fighting someone who's 165 pounds. And why not? It's not because we're trying to fat shame the person who's 280 pounds. It's because we know who would be the winner if those two people got in a boxing ring. Okay. Same thing with, even age divisions. You have 18 and under and you have 12 and under. You don't have an 18-year-old playing on a peewee league. It's not because we're trying to be ageist. Is that even a thing? We're not trying to do that.
It is.
We're not trying to do that.
It is a thing. We'll be accused of it next.
We know who would be the winner or who would help contribute to a win if an 18-year-old was able to play with a 12-year-old. It's the same thing with having sex classes or categories on the basis of sex in sports. And one point to make really quickly about this whole creating a third category, a category for those who identify as trans or non-binary or those who are gender non-conforming. We have seen this time and time and time again, where number one, people propose this and then they do it. We saw it in swimming, actually, in my sport, at the highest level.
I didn't know that.
They created a third category, and Thomas, the person that from University of Pennsylvania, the man who I competed against, he went on to sue because he said, look, I don't want a third category. If I can't trample on women in the process, I don't want to play the sport at all.
Right.
So again, it goes to show here that these people, the other side, really aren't looking for compromise. And if I'm being honest with you, Jillian, on this issue, I'm not really either, because there is no compromise to be had when it's as simple as you are either a man or a woman. There is no compromise there, because it's nothing opinionated. Like, it is merely biological reality. There is nothing to compromise when we're talking about what is real, what is true, what is objective, and what is not.